Hello, BookTube. Today I thought I'd start a new series. I've been doing shelf tours, and the problem is the large book sets. I know I've done some of them in the shelf tours, and I won't repeat those, but I like to pull out some of the larger sets and just do a series of videos about book sets. That'll make the shelf tours a little easier and allow me to give the book sets their due. Um, they they're a little bit of a different animal than your standalone volumes or even your 1, 2, and 3 volume sets. Um, so I'm going to start with a set of Easton Press books. They're Winston Churchill set. Um, I did a big study as an undergraduate, studying to write biography. So I did a 6-month study on Winston Churchill. I've always been a fan. I've always enjoyed the story, his story, and I've read an awful lot of Winston Churchill stuff. So I'm going to start with the Easton Press. If this thing falls on me, I'm not getting back up. I had to bring them upstairs, which I do a lot, because I've got 4 boys downstairs playing Xbox One Halo, and they have no interest in me being around down there. So, give you an idea here. Silk and papers. Got the what's the best way to do this? It's got the ribbon marker until it's illustrated. So it's Winston S. Churchill, Youth, 1874 to 1900, Volume 1. Collector's edition, bound in genuine leather. Easton Press, Norwalk, Connecticut. Copyright 1966 by C&T Publications, renewal 1994. This special contents of this edition are copyrighted 94 by Easton Press. This book is, and this will be true of all of them, this book is printed on archival quality paper, especially milled for this edition. It's acid neutral and conforms to all the guidelines established for permanence and durability. And it keeps going on. So, here we have a theme of Volume 1. How an underesteemed boy of genius, of noble character and daring spirit, seized and created 100 opportunities to rise in the world and add glory by his own merit and audacity to a name already famous. So here's the title page. And this is by Randolph S. Churchill, Winston's son. And the uniform was Second Lieutenant Winston S. Churchill, 4th Hussars, 1895. So, theme of the work, he shall be his own biographer, is a quote from Lockhart. The thing with, to think about the time span of Churchill's life, he came up under Queen Victoria, and he died in my lifetime. So his life covered a span, obviously, of remarkable change, which is why we remember him, and he played a role in a lot of that. But it's pretty interesting to think about. So right there, you have Jane Churchill and the first Duke of Marlborough. John Churchill, the first Duke of Marlborough, and Sarah, Duchess of Marlborough. This is Blenheim Palace, where Winston was born. This is Lord and Lady Randolph here. He was sort of a tragic character, Winston's parents. And then there's Lady Randolph when she was in Ireland. Winston was a commoner, technically. There's Winston and his mother. But he was part of an incredibly famous family. and grew up in a world that most of us would never get to grow up into. So these things are well illustrated, and here some more pictures, and very nicely done. So this one says R.S. Churchill, Randolph S. Churchill, and that's who put this volume together. So let me brave the mountainous pile of books again. I hope I put these up in order. So this is Winston S. Churchill. It says Gilbert, Young Statesman, 1901 to 1914. So the first one was 1874 to 1900. Here, 1901 to 1914. So you're going to notice that there's a problem. Remember I said Gilbert. That would be for Martin Gilbert. And yet when you open this volume, see what it says? Winston S. Churchill, Young Statesman, 1901 to 1914, Volume 2 by Randolph S. Churchill. And so this would appear to be a bit of a mistake on the publisher's part. So I'll give you some more. And again, these are amply illustrated volumes. We're going to cover a lot of time. There's Edward Marsh and Winston Churchill in Africa, and then Winston Churchill and John Marley in Privy Council's uniform. So Winston's rising in the world here. Dapper figure. But that spine identification is problematic. So Gilbert doesn't seem to make sense. Now this one, the third volume, is 1914 to 1916, and again it says Gilbert. This is Winston S. Churchill, The Challenge of War, 1914 to 1916, is Volume 3. But if you'll notice on the title page, this time Gilbert makes sense. Do that. And that's Martin Gilbert, the famous biographer and historian. There's some different images here. So they usually have a couple sections of photographs. And they've got the gold all around. So now we're at Gilbert's throughout. This is the fourth volume, The Stricken World, 1917 to 1922. The end papers. Sort of pretty, aren't they? This is volume 4, like I said, Martin Gilbert. Plenty of historic photographs. I'll go a little quicker now because you got a general idea how these things are put together. This one is The Prophet of Truth, 1922 to 1934. Again by Martin Gilbert. That's probably a familiar photo to many folks. This volume seems to be a little lighter on the photographs. I don't know why. And The Prophet of Truth, 35 to 39. Did I get out of order there? No, that's all right. Sorry for getting out of the camera there. And again, a little something strange here. You'll notice there's no photo across from the title page. So it's like they get a little farther into these things and some of that stuff dropped off. And various folks he interacted with. That's Anthony Eden with Churchill. And then another very famous photograph. The next one, again, Gilbert. Winston S. Churchill, the finest hour, 39 to 40. So this is volume 6, part 1. Yeah, they show some of the, let's see if I can find a map. Yeah, okay. There's the map. There's some photographs. This would be, next volume is 1940 to 41. Again, Gilbert. It seems what I did with that other one. Okay. So this is volume 6, part 2. Again, nothing across from the... This first part of that's called Britain Alone. Then we go, Winston S. Churchill by Gilbert, Road to Victory, 1941 to 1944. Volume 7, part 1. Road to Victory, 44 to 45. Again by Martin Gilbert. This is actually volume 7, part 2. Then we have Never Despair, 45 to 51. It's a fantastic photo of Winston Churchill in Provence. How you like that hat? Isn't that thing great? Volume 8, part 1. And then, finally, the penultimate volume, Never Despair, 1951 to 1965. This is volume 8, part 2. And let's see here. Wonderful photo there. There he is with a very young queen. And let's see. Here he is at his home Chartwell with his dog Rufus. Hope you can see that. It's probably a little difficult to see. Very famous photograph. Oh, the horse. Isn't that great? Here he is with the proofs of his history of the English-speaking peoples, which I have. And then his coffin leaving St. Paul's Cathedral. So I've always been a big fan. There have been a few. That second volume being identified as Gilbert's a little odd. I don't know what the story of that is. But other than that, a very nice set. And I used these volumes quite a bit during my study of Churchill. And of course, you could fill a wall with Churchill stuff by Churchill and about Churchill and all that. So he continues to be a subject of great interest for biographers and historians and for myself. So thank you, BookTube.